Welcome back, Gundam guys and Gundam gals. Patrick Grade here from GGInfiniteNews.com. Finally, bringing you the first part of the video review for the Master Grade Full Armor Unicorn Gundam Verka. As you can see down here, there's about 40 empty plates of plastic. So this was a huge build. And even though I built 2 beam magnums, 2 hyper bazookas, 2 missile pods, 2 hyper beam javelins, 3 shields, 6 miniguns, and 8 grenade packs, it wasn't all that bad, so I was pretty happy with the build overall. So this is going to be probably a long review, 3 or 4 parts I'm expecting so far. So let's get started by taking a look at the individual pieces of the mobile suit itself, and then we'll move on to the accessories and the rest of the kit. So let's get started. So before we go over the individual pieces of the Full Armor Unicorn Gundam, let's go over the long history of the Unicorn Gundam in Master Grade form so far. The Full Armor Unicorn Gundam is about the 5th release so far of the Unicorn Gundam in Master Grade form. So the Verka version came out in 2007, and that was the first release of the Master Grade Unicorn. And that mold had a couple problems with it, namely the articulation in the knees. It would bend less than 90 degrees or so because of the armor around the back of the knee, and I believe it was also missing the Vulcan cannons on the head sculpt, which apparently was a big deal to some people. So after that came a titanium release of the Verka version. It was the same thing, just in the titanium colors, which is like a real shiny paint finish. Bandai adds some clear coating to the sprues, which gives it a glossier finish. So then in 2010 we saw 2 releases of the OVA version, which coincided with the 2nd or 3rd OVA movie release. That mold had some additions. It had the Vulcan cannons molded into the head, and the knees had a bit more articulation. They can bend almost 90 degrees. So it fixed a few of the problems. There were 2 versions. The standard OVA version, which is this one, and the HD version came with a special cage, what we saw the unicorn being housed in at the beginning of the first OVA. And also it had HD colors, which was similar to a titanium finish, but not quite as glossy, I think. So that was release 3 and 4, and then finally we have the Full Armor Unicorn, which is the current release. So like I said previously, this Full Armor Unicorn Gundam is also a Verka version, but it does have the better articulation in the knees. But the head sculpt is missing the Vulcan cannons on either side, so it's kind of weird that Bandai kind of mixed the 2 kits together with the better articulation in the knee and lacking the Vulcan cannons. So, oh well. And another thing I noticed is that on the OVA version, the inner frame is kind of a gunmetal, sparkly gunmetal gray, or maybe even a lighter brown. But the Full Armor is using these typical inner frame gray that we've seen 1,000 times before. And I don't think some of the paint, like the blue on the OVA, is a little bit more sparkly. This has kind of a metallic sheen to it, and I don't think it's the same on the Full Armor version. And the other difference in the main mobile suit of the Full Armor version is that the Psycho frame is green instead of the pink that we saw in all the other releases. So a few color variations and some sculpting differences from the previous releases so far. So let's start looking at the parts. Alright, so I'll start at the bottom here with the feet and legs. Now the construction of the feet and legs is pretty complex, because there's a lot of inner frame to go along with the transformation, and a lot of pieces have to go together just right and in the proper order. Much more so on other Gundams that I've built so far. So just pay close attention to the instructions when you're building the legs. especially to how the pieces are aligned and facing and stuff. So it's very important to pay close attention to the illustrations. So anyway, as far as articulation goes, like I said before, the knee is modified some from the original Verkov version, so it can bend a little bit more than 90 degrees at the knee. Of course, we have a really strong hip joint here that allows for 360 swivel if need be. The ankles have quite a wide range of movement, side to side, forward and back, and so a lot of good movement there, as well as this cover for the foot pad being able to move up and down freely on its own little hinge joint here, which is part of the transformation. So in Unicorn mode, it just lays flat on top of the foot like that. The toe can pop forward like this, as opposed to downwards facing like a lot of other Gundams do. And there are two additional moving areas on the foot for the transformation. This piece here. This is a solid piece. It's all white plastic. Two large panels on either side with a bar in between, so they move in tandem on both sides. And these little side pads here are also connected, but by a third inner frame piece. And these are really easy to pop off, kind of frustratingly so. And in the transformation, they're supposed to face down. The bar that connects them runs through the width of the foot. So if you move one, you move them both. And as you can see, they pop off quite easy. So the idea for the transformation is to get... This is how it is in normal mode. And you can see the little notch here, so you want to get it facing backwards, which is kind of hard to do without making stuff fall off. So after a little struggling, I got it to face backwards, and that way, with the notch lined up properly in the side piece, they're supposed to face down like this in the transformation. So the feet are real troublesome as far as pieces falling off. These two white pieces can come off, like I said before, as well as this back heel piece also that can come off real easily. I guess it's better for them to fall off than rather than breaking, but it still gets pretty annoying during the transformation. So as far as transformation goes, I believe the legs and feet are the most difficult to do, not because it's difficult to actually do, just because it's frustrating. So the general idea is this piece here is like a locking mechanism. If you swivel it out like that, that unlocks the thigh, so you can pull it up, and then pushing it back in place locks it again, so that's stuck in place that way. Now the knee part transforms quite a bit. This lower knee armor, it says in the manual just to pull it all the way off, and then take this and kind of move stuff around here a little bit to where I think it's supposed to be something like kind of like that. So then put that aside for a second. So the upper knee can swivel out like that because it's on this inner frame piece that connects to a swivel joint. So you kind of pop that up like this, and then you can see this green cycle frame inside here that's supposed to raise out, and it's real hard to grip it like that. But if you pull the calf armor back, if you do it right, it's supposed to kind of release that, but it doesn't lock in place very well. And when you pull the calf armor up, you can see there's a thruster as well as some more cycle frame there. So with this out in place, there is two little connection pegs here, although two connection arms, that this, I believe, is supposed to peg into, but I can't get that to work very well. Every time I try to push it in to connect, it just pops off and frustrates the hell out of me. So it sort of works. Stick like your hobby knife here and hold that out like this. The hobby knife to make the cycle frame stay in place. This part pegs down into there, and this is supposed to connect there, but like I said, I can't get it to work very well. But as long as you can get the green piece to stay out, that's sort of how it's supposed to look. And I'll do that as good enough for now. On the lower legs, these little guys unclip on either side. And that allows you to pull the ankles down a little bit to expose more cycle frame. And that kind of rests there like that. And again, the feet are troublesome just because pieces like to fall off. So the front pad here just goes up like that. These are supposed to rotate down, and it did without any trouble this time. It was the first time ever. And these guys flip up like that and go around that armor. So that's pretty much the desired result there. If you can get this to peg into place properly, my hat's off to you. I feel like I'm going to brick it if I try any harder, so maybe I'm retarded. And in its transform mode, you can see it does add quite a bit of height there to the overall Gundam, so that's quite a difference in height. Maybe a half an inch or so. So the end transformation is pretty cool, I guess. But of course, getting there is really frustrating. So in general, I think people just transform it once and leave it in one mode or the other. But of course, the full armor version is supposed to be all cycle framed out. So I'll transform this into the destroy mode and leave it that way. But in general, I prefer the unicorn mode overall, just because I like the clean look to it. But anyway, there's the feet and legs transformed. And here it is in standard unicorn mode. So destroy mode, unicorn mode. Quite a bit of difference. And the knees and the feet are frustrating. Everything else is pretty easy. So here's a look at the waist units, starting off in unicorn mode. Again, the overall look is very clean, but with a lot of panel lines and stuff. But I chose to leave these unpanel lined because I like the stark white look with the different levels of panels, so there's a lot of shadows and stuff going on without having any extra lines. So overall, I like the clean look a lot better than a cluttered panel line kind of deal, but this is my personal preference. So the torso unit is real easy to transform. Each of the major pieces transforms a little bit. The side skirts you just pull down, straight down, to expose the the cycle frame. The back skirts just raise these panels up, exposing some thrusters. So on the front skirts, this panel here just raises up. As long as you don't knock it off the little peg inside there, it stays on just fine. And then the front codpiece thing here, you pull it down like this, lift that up, and exposes a little more inner frame. So then if you flip on the back, if you unhook this, it allows the hip joints to swivel out. So if you squeeze the two hip joints together, it'll pop the panels out enough to where you can come in back here and then push this back in place so it locks them out. So that way they're out and can't go back in. So the torso unit transforms quite a bit, but very simply, and usually not anything falling off. The back panels can close pretty easily, so you just have to contend with those sometimes. And these front panels are on like a little swiveling joint there, and as long as you don't pull them out this way, they'll stay on just fine. So the torso looks pretty cool. A real nice, easy transformation. So here's a look at the chest unit in Unicorn mode. And again, in this mode, the color is just majority white with a little bit of gray poking out from the inner frame and stuff in certain areas. And without the head on, you can see the cycle frame beneath there, but that's not supposed to be seen. So in Unicorn mode, there's not much as far as moving parts go. The shoulders can pull out a little bit. There's no torso swivel or anything. The only thing that really is supposed to move in this mode is the cockpit hatch, which pops up like that to expose Banasher inside there. It locks in place very nicely. So that's pretty much it. Again, I really like the clean look of the Unicorn mode, especially with all the different heights and panels and stuff. So I can dig this mode. So to transform it, you want to pull apart the shoulders here, kind of like in the 00 Gundam. So grip it underneath there, and this kind of pulls away. And you want to pull it away far enough to expose the complete shoulder-mounted cannons, and then use like a hobby knife or toothpick to help raise it up like that. And then with this side exposed, you can swivel down this panel there. So do the same thing on the opposite side. Pull apart the shoulder enough to expose the hidden cannon there, and use a hobby knife to swivel it up. Pull down these two panels. And on the back side, release this lock here by flipping it up a little bit. And that way you can kind of move the torso and waist down just a tad, and then lock it back in place to add more stability. So for the chest, it's a real easy transformation. Just separate the two shoulders, flip the panels down, flip these guys up, and you expose quite a bit of cycle frame there. So overall, I think the destroy mode looks pretty nice. Quite a bit of green there, a little bit more than I prefer, but all in all, it's not so bad. So the arms and shoulder armor are two separate pieces. They held together by a little friction here on the shoulder joint. The elbow bends a little over 90 degrees. You can kind of get a little more out if you scrape the plastic together there. There's a little articulation here in the wrist, just swivel, and a little bit of rocking movement there. There's a beam saber handle stored in each of the forearms, and this little piece right here. So you can pull it out all the way like that, and you can plug a beam saber blade in there and leave it just plugged in like that. Or you can remove it from the sheath and arm it in the hand. There's a notch there to hold it in place here, and also on the hand. And I like the fact that you can have a beam saber blade on each of the forearms as well as in the hand with the two that's on the backpack. So that's a pretty cool mode there. So there's not much else to it. There is swivel at the shoulder joint there. And the transformation for the arms and shoulders is pretty simple. I'm going to take off the shoulder here. There's nothing to change up here on the upper bicep. But on the forearm, what you want to do is pull the forearm out a little bit. But not too far, because it can pull straight off. Exposing some cycle frame there. And then just pull the wrists down. So that's pretty much it for the arm transformation. It doesn't really add much to the overall look, just a little bit of length and stuff to make it more proportional, I guess, with the extra length in the legs. Then for the shoulder, there's three different parts here: the upper, the lower, and the side. If you pull the upper apart like this, it allows you to swivel this thruster down, which pops out these little guys, and then you kind of move them back that way. So I think that's the intended look there, to have this thruster or whatever is supposed to be on the side, and the cycle frame exposed here in the center. So this is a real easy transformation, nothing much going on there. And then overall, There's not much exposed psycho frame on the arm. So overall, the shoulders and arms just transform a little bit, add a little length and width and bulk to it. So, but it's a pretty easy transformation and not too troublesome as far as parts falling off or anything. So here's a look at the iconic unicorn head in unicorn mode. The most noticeable thing about it is the long unicorn here that eventually will become the V-fin in the transformed destroy mode. As you can see, this version is split down the middle. That is for the transformation, and there's no way to lock this in place securely so it looks right. So that's why Bandai included a single non-split unicorn here. So if you're going to leave your model in the unicorn mode, it's best to put this guy on there just to make it look as good as possible. But for now, I'll have the split version on here just for the transformation. And as you can see, overall, of course, the unicorn mode is very plain. A lot of different heights in the panels and stuff here, so there's a lot of shadows and light play and lines going on without having any color. The only color you can really see is a little bit of green there through the visor for the eyes back here, and a sensor in the back. So transformation's pretty simple, but it can be frustrating because a lot of stuff can fall apart without too much effort. So what you're supposed to do is pull the side panels off, and doing that allows you to then pull down the chin. As you can see, this whole thing comes off. It's not supposed to, but I pulled it off for now anyway. So pull down the chin, tuck in the armor back here, and this head's on a little sliding mechanism. Slide it forward, and that way it can clear the armor in the back, so that exposes the goatee and the faceplate and the eyes. Let's go ahead and put back the top thing here. That's not supposed to come off, but it tends to anyway. So again, focusing on the white piece is kind of difficult, but the side pieces you flip upside down to where the little square design is in the back on the bottom, and you plug the back in place on either side. And then the last thing to do is to split the unicorn in two to expose the V-fin. So of course this is supposed to be yellow on the inside here, and you're supposed to use the stickers if you're not going to paint anything. But the stickers don't stay on very well and it looks tacky, and I'm out of yellow paint, so I'm just going to leave it white for now. I'll paint it when I get some more paint in stock. But otherwise, oh, and I forgot to apply a little sensor sticker up here. But other than that, with the yellow there and the green on the sensor camera, that's pretty much the whole deal. So I do like the unicorn mode, but the destroy mode looks pretty nice too, and it's definitely more Gundam-esque. So overall, that's a pretty cool transformation. And aside from this front piece coming off when it's not supposed to, and maybe the faceplate popping off when you're moving stuff around, it's not a difficult transformation, but it can be annoying if stuff does fall off. So just have a little patience with it, and you'll get it there. So the last thing I'll be going over in this video is the backpack, just because it's part of the main mobile suit and it transforms quite a bit. So here it is in unicorn mode. You can see the beam saber handles stored here on the back, but you can't really access them. You're not supposed to pull them out in this mode. And aside from the feet, this is the only really piece of blue plastic that you'll see on the mobile suit and the backpack. You can see a little bit of psycho frame there through the holes on the thrusters, and they can move a little bit, not much. And there's some gray up here for the pieces that hold onto the beam saber blades. And this little thing allows you to slot this in place on the back, put it in and push it down, and it kind of locks into place. So that's pretty cool. So as far as transformation goes, they tell you in the book to pull these all the way out, but you don't have to. You can just loosen them up, flip the handles up, and then turn them around. Then on either side, these little flaps pull out like that, which exposes some green cycle frame inside there. And that's and as well as 2 more thrusters. And the last thing to do is to pop up this little section here, which can be difficult if you don't pull this little blue piece all the way off and then move the green up. And then that's pretty much it for the transform backpack. Decent amount of green exposed here. And then having the handles coming up will add to the silhouettes of the figure from the front. So all in all, it looks pretty nice. A real simple backpack, but it looks pretty nice. So as the full armor Unicorn Gundam spins around here in this destroy mode, with the OVA version at its back, and that one being in the Unicorn mode, we can see the difference in the overall height, as well as bulk, and overall intimidation factor, I guess, with the cycle frame being exposed, the silhouettes being changed with the extra spikes and unique sharp features coming off at all angles. While I generally like the Unicorn mode a little bit more just because it's cleaner and more simple looking, the Destroy mode definitely has its place and its unique look to it. So I think overall both modes are pretty worthwhile. And although the transformation of the into Destroy mode is quite cumbersome and bothersome, I think the resulting look is worth it. So thanks a lot for watching this long first part of the review. I wanted to go over the Unicorn and Destroy mode together just to get through this pretty quickly, because it has been seen before. It's nothing all that new aside from the colors and stuff. So thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you again this weekend, and stay tuned.